All right. So, what are we doing today?
I work on the variable, how to use correctly variable, and I have a big question because when my workflow is not dehydrated, when I use a bookmark, the workflow is stop, and then suspended. Sorry, it's suspended, and it will run with a new bookmark. And at this moment, I have the impression that I lose the variable. I understand that we have memory variable, so this memory can be deleted and removed when the workflow is suspended and then restarted. But if I use the workflow provider for the variable should be stored in the state of the workflow and I should be content of the variable when I receive the bookmark and when I start the workflow again.
Yes, exactly.
So
that is the expected behavior.
And maybe it's something else because I don't succeed to get the variable in the context. But if I am on, if I use the script activity, JavaScript activity, and I use the code get my variable, the output is correct. So
wait a second. So you're saying, if I understand correctly, the variable value is gone after resumption, but the output is still correct, or did I misunderstand?
No, I think you don't miss anything. So I will share my screen.
Please do.
Okay, this is the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in this workflow, I first write line, then I set a variable. Okay, so I set test variable with the value hello variable. Then I send a message to a service bus, and then I'm waiting for a message in the workflow. So in this frontier, at this step, when I start the message receive, I will create a new bookmark because I'm not triggering the workflow with this activity. So the workflow will be suspended and then wake up by the bookmark, the worker of the and the listener of the service bus. And after I receive the message, I run a JavaScript expression get test variable, and then I just write line. Okay.
Okay. Just to double check, can we take a look at the variable definition, the test variable, just to make
the
absolutely
variable
sure?
storage workflow.
Okay, gotcha.
I have only workflow and memory. So I suppose memory, I will lose the variable. Workflow, I will keep the variable.
You know what's interesting? If you look at name, it's called variable one, and yet on the
I know it's because I
you
just add. I just click on add variable and not edit.
okay, good.
If I edit, it's okay.
Gotcha. All right, good.
Okay. So and I have just to be clear, I have used the iNotification handler to hook the workflow executing, workflow executed, activity and executing and executed. The idea here is to access the execution context of the workflow or the activity, because on my program, I hook the life cycle of the workflow to log some element, and so I need to get some information from the context. And for me, I think the context available here is the same as the context available in the different activity.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct, yes.
So if I have an issue when I click the button, I have an issue with header response of the execute. I don't know why. I get the given header was not found. It's the Elsa header.
That usually so this is a symptom of an underlying issue. If a 500 internal server error occurs, then it will not produce this header value, and so now the Elsa Studio Blazor implementation is having an issue. Let's if you switch back to your workflow server, maybe we see something else there.
I don't have any 500 error on the workflow. That's strange, because even if there is a network tab, if I restart, I see the network call with 200, and I see the header. So I really don't understand.
That's really strange, because I ran into this same error a couple of days ago, and it was because the server was responding with an exception, and therefore it wasn't sending back the header, which would then throw up on the client side. But this looks something else.
And maybe if I, yes, you see, I have 200.
Are you running from the source code by any chance?
Yes.
I don't know how much time you have. Would you have a few minutes to
sure
dig into this a little bit?
On the Elsa server, I use Azure Service Bus activities. Is it okay?
Yeah, that's fine. If that's your server,
yes. So
then
I
restart this with debugger attached if it's not already
attached
to the debugger.
This with debugger, I will just activate all the execution. Yes. I know exception. Okay. It's okay.
Yeah, make sure that that's entirely checked. I don't know about managed debugging assistance if that needs to be fully checked as well, but the common language runtime is that's good.
And
okay.
I am on the wasn't. It's okay for the WebAssembly, or do I need to use the host server?
Yeah, if you have the server set up, that will be better, because the WASM it's tricky to debug.
I'll do it again. Okay, so no error on the server.
I knew it. There wasn't a problem.
So for this, there is no 500 on the server side.
Yeah, so I wonder what was the issue on the in the WebAssembly version. But that's going to be a little bit harder now to troubleshoot, because it's harder to debug with the debugger.
And one thing is using the same WebAssembly project. If I point to the server, the actual server, I will have an issue. If I point to an old server, I will not have any issue.
Sorry, you're saying if you point the WebAssembly studio to a web workflow server, you have an issue. But if you when I point to this Azure Service Bus activity server, I have an issue. But if I point to an older, maybe server, my custom server, I don't have any issue. Would you mind showing me?
Yes. So this one is good. So I will step it. Okay. So it's quite the same, but it is my composite activity we send and receive. And if I launch, it works. Okay. And
so this is
the same
is this the Blazor or server?
It's a Blazor WebAssembly.
This is Blazor WebAssembly, and so pointing this one to a regular your other workflow server, it works. And now you're going to point it to the service bus workflow server. Okay. And so here, and I will, and in this case, I have the invalid operation exception. And again, if I look at the network tab, I got the execute, the post 200, okay, and I got the Elsa workflow instance ID. So I really don't understand. Maybe there is maybe there is something in the server that close the connection and create some issue on the WebAssembly. I don't know. But so this is the same WebAssembly that you just started. It's just now pointing to a different server. Yes. I just changed the URL. Maybe if you don't mind, you can share with me your setup, or maybe a simplified version, so that I can run it on my machine, and then I'd like to get to the bottom of this one.
Yeah, okay. I will do it. Okay.
Great.
So if we take a look at the subject about the variable, like take a look at the instance. So when I launch the workflow, I have these traces. What we can see is I have access to the variable and to the content of the variable after workflow at the workflow executed event. Okay, and after at the workflow executing, the test variable is present because it's in the workflow provider, but it is never present in the context of the different activities, and it's empty. And when I hit the debug, I see that it's used the workflow provider and it read the variable, but it's not available in the context.
So first question I have is, what happens if you replace the service bus activities with another activity that also causes the workflow to be suspended? For example, you could have a publish event instead of send message and event instead of message received.
Okay, so I will do it, and just to show you, sorry, in the run JavaScript, I execute the get test variable, and I've got the good value.
So then, what's the issue?
So, but the issue is the run JavaScript activity has access to the value, but the context in the workflow and in all the other activity, I don't think I have access to it in the context of the other activity. And even if I have, I don't have access in the event.
These variables, they live on the root activity execution scope. So maybe the events being executed here, so for example, the activity executing, that context may not have this variable defined in its own current scope. But if you try to use, I think it's called get variable. So instead of doing looping over the context at variables, you and just for a second try to explicitly get the variable that you're expecting. So let's say on line 46.
Yes, here I need to loop on all the parent context.
Yeah, exactly. So and actually what you should do is start from the current activity execution context. So so as you are doing right now, so you're doing print variable.
Yes, this one. And
yeah. But one question. So how are you getting the print? Oh yeah, exactly. So you're passing in the context into the print variable. So in the print variable, there what you should do is not just look into the variables collection of the current context, but then once you've done that, get the parent execution context and repeat the same thing, and then its parent, etc. So it's gonna, well, you can do it as a recursive function or just do an infinite loop. Exactly. So just set the current parent or current context to the context variable, and then update the value with the context that's parent until there's no more parents.
Okay.
So that might be the explanation that you're not seeing the value here, even though the run JavaScript activity does show the value, because it uses this mechanism where it's going to look for the first scope in its hierarchy of execution scopes to see if it finds this variable.
Okay. So do you remember where the JavaScript expression is defined?
Yeah. So if you go to the scripting folder, yeah, maybe collapse all of these projects first. So you see workflows, module,
okay, JavaScript, and
services, and then Gint JavaScript evaluator, and then look for its create variable accessors.
Get variable in scope. That's right.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, let's start there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, then it's given a variable, it's gonna go into get variable. And also notice the enumerate variables in scope. That's the thing that it's doing. Yeah, and here it's basically doing this loop.
Okay.
And it's this one, it doesn't use an infinite loop, it uses recursion.
Okay. Okay. And so when we define variable in an activity, when you use context.variable.add and or set, we need to keep this in mind.
Actually, you don't. The extension method that you will be using takes care of that for you. So if you want, I can show you.
Yes, yes, please. Because I don't really understand why in certain case I have to keep this in mind, and in other case the framework do this for me.
Yeah. So ideally you don't have to keep this in mind. And when you just use context.set variable and context.get variable, it will work out. You don't have to keep it in mind. Because what happens when you do context.set variable, for example, actually I'll show you. Can you go to, I don't know, some custom activity, it doesn't matter which one, and go to its execute method.
Yes. Custom. No, it's not. I know that the switch, for example, I have access to.
Yeah. So here, for example, it doesn't matter which one. So here it's about having access to the context. So add a new line somewhere and then enter context. Yeah, this one. So you'll see it will accept a name and a value. Yes. So let's take a look at the implementation of set variable. So this one will call that into context of expression excuse context of set variable. And yeah, you can go into this one. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing it's going to do, it's going to check to see if there's already a variable by this name, and if so, or if it doesn't exist, then it's going to go ahead and create that variable and also assign the variable at the same time. But first, let's take a look at get variable, context.get variable, see what it's doing.
Okay, so we return on the loop.
Yeah, so now we are here. So here it's going to see, it's going to try and find the variable by that name in starting with the current context, and then it's going up its chain. So okay, so now let's pretend the variable doesn't exist. So we're going to go back to the code here. So it's null. So it's going to create a variable on line 174. So here this needs to be optimized. Now it's going to again check for the get variable, but it shouldn't have to. We can refactor this so that it doesn't try to get the same variable twice. But so it's gonna be null. So it's gonna create a new variable, and then on line 150, it's gonna assign this variable into the variable container context. So what's the variable container context? That is the first parent context that has a variable container, and a variable container is expressed as a interface called iVariable container. Okay. And what kinds of activities implement this interface? That will be flowchart and sequence or any composite activity. Okay. If you go back to the previous document. This one? Let's see. Yeah, exactly. Get variable container context. So you see it's going to try and find a parent where the activity execution context activity is of type iVariable container on line 162.
162, this one.
Yes, yeah, you see. So it's going to actually look for the first parent activity that implements this interface. So this is important because imagine you have, well, we were looking at the if activity. Let's go to the set variable activity, which is created specifically for creating variables from the workflow.
This one?
If
yeah,
yeah, so there's yeah, this is fine. So here, if we would do it like this, set variable, and we would set it into the current context, then the variable will be local to just the switch activity. But then it's useless for accessing this variable from other activities, right? Because they may not know about the switch activity, or nor should they. So it needs to be set in a higher scope. So the scope being the first parent that can contain variables. So that's where the variables will be set and read from. So then another activity from where you would say get variable using the name as you have there in the quotes. It will also look up this variable in that same parent execution context.
Okay.
So because of this setup, you shouldn't have to keep in mind the scope, but it is useful to be aware of this hierarchy because it gives you more control, especially if you're doing some more advanced scenarios or creating custom activities that might do some fancy things. But for the majority of cases, you shouldn't have to be aware of it.
So so if I use the good activity, the good method, I should be able to loop.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my issue is here, but I don't know the. Okay.
Yeah, and in this logging that you have here, you want to be iterating through the variables. But in that case, it is important that you understand this hierarchy of activity execution context and where the variables are stored. Yeah.
That's because in this case, I don't. I can know it if it is tied to my implementation, but maybe I don't know the name, or if I just want to know what variable are defined.
Yeah.
I need
exactly.
to loop until all scope until the last reference. Okay.
Yeah, and there is an existing method that you should be able to use to just iterate over it as if it were a flat list. So you don't have to walk up the hierarchy yourself. I think we just looked at it in the JavaScript or Jint JavaScript evaluator.
Okay, maybe. Okay, so if we up to the thing.
Yeah, this is the one, Jint JavaScript evaluator. Yeah, so let's go into context that, oh, sorry, no, it's there. You see the get variables in scope?
Yes.
On line 184, it uses enumerate variables in scope. So if we go into this one, so it's a private static. So we might refactor this so that it becomes accessible to you as well.
Okay.
So, but this is the logic basically that you would be doing in order to enumerate all of the available variables across the hierarchy.
Okay. Is there yield that? Okay. Okay. That's great. And
feel free to make this one public and move it to a more central utility class.
Yes, sure. Okay.
Since you're
okay, that's fine. And so the last question is, I can have any workflow variable even if it's not defined in the I can the question is I can add new variable at runtime. I don't need
to the
because
absolutely.
my
You don't
because my point is I need some variable, but it's a very technical variable, and I don't want to surface this kind of variable for the end user. So you don't have to create empty variable, and I just want to be able to use it, and it's for my my implementation and my supervision.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. This is not a requirement to do it through the UI. This is really just for users designing workflows, and they want to be able to define variables that make sense for the scope of the workflow, but it's not a technical requirement. But on this topic that you mentioned, where you need some internal variable that is just something between your custom activities, there might be a better way, depending on your use case scenario, there might be a better way to leverage this. So instead of using variables, you could consider using custom properties, I think is the name, which exists on the workflow execution context. And this is actually the main reason for custom properties to exist, so that activities can store state either privately in their own, and then you can use the workflow execution context.
So it's not on the workflow execution context.
Maybe it's called differently. Let's see what options we have.
Because I have property. Okay, and so this property are stored with the workflow state.
Yeah, can you look up the implementation of properties just to make sure? So it's a string of objects. So it doesn't seem to have any usages, or actually it does. let's take a look at one of its existing usages.
I get property and set property.
Yeah, so that's a helper method, which makes it easier to especially access existing properties so that you get it strongly typed. Can we take a look at some of the usages of set and get property?
Yeah, in the context extension.
Yes, the set name activity uses this function.
Okay.
Yeah, so here it's setting, so the set name activity allows you to set the name of the workflow instance, but a workflow instance, well, actually the workflow instance database entity does have a name column, but the workflow execution context itself doesn't have a name property at all. So it uses this property to set.
Okay. Okay.
So you could use this as well instead of variables.
Okay, and I have access to this also inside every custom activity. Yes, because I have access here, and I have access in the workflow execution context and in the activity execution context.
Exactly.
Okay, I will change. I will change to this. That's good. Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, there's this one thing to keep in mind, that if you create custom activities that are also going to be used by other users who may also be consuming other custom activities or from third parties, you have to be careful with naming collisions of your property names.
Sure. Okay.
But the same, of course, goes with naming variables. If you were creating variables from your activity.
Yeah, sure. Okay. That's a good point. I can also prefix and use the some dots, and I think it's I will avoid any issue with this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, I keep this in mind, and I will create an issue to track this.
Oh yeah,
okay.
That's nice. Yeah, right. Cool. Besides that, the Azure Service Bus activities that you worked on has been merged. Did you want to show it in this demo, or is that too complicated?
No, if you want, I that's why I
haven't tried it, so I'd love to see it.
So here it's sending and receive message in the using the service bus activity. So I will change this. So for example, here we just use the keyword topic property, and I send a message with a simple string in the service bus. In message receive, I am listening to the same topic and just use the names, subscription name. So if I look and get, and the fact that I use the subscription inside the topic I send assures that I am able to avoid any race condition I receive the message immediately, or when the message is available for the workflow. It's the same demo as you with your event when you publish event, and I can also maybe use the message receive in parallel with the send message.
Interesting. So you're saying that this is because of this setup, you have a subscription inside of this topic. So you can just deliver something to the topic, even though there's but you are using the workflow inbox, right? Because as soon as something gets delivered to the topic, it will be delivered to any listeners, which there are. When Elsa is running, you have a listener, which will receive the message, and that message consumer or worker will then use the workflow inbox API. I see. Nice.
Yes, because now we're using indeed in the service bus. It's here. Yes, we are using the workflow inbox to submit the new message just received by the listener.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I've seen that you just change something to provide a factory for the worker. I don't take a look, because the idea here to be sure that we give for the end developer maximum of possibility without rebuild a new worker. The idea is to be able to customize this one and customize the trigger and no, not the bookmark, the type of bookmark.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
And I see you publish something on the for the factory. Maybe I'm wrong, but
sorry, can you elaborate a little bit?
yes, you just introduce expose Azure Service Bus Client Factory, but I don't know if it is for this or not.
Oh, no. So this is unrelated. This allows you to control the instantiation of the service bus client, so you can use things like the default Azure credentials. Yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean, and well, we still have to do that.
So the idea here is because for now I have create a new worker for my need, and this worker use a specific bookmark because in my implementation I use the correlation ID, but I also use some service bus property of the message to give more information in my bookmark and be sure that I will wake up the good workflow at the good activity.
So we want to be able to reuse the message received trigger payloads to include, or maybe to be able to derive a new class from that bookmark. Would that be an approach, or did you have something else in mind?
The fact is we need maybe we need a specific bookmark payload, but do we need a specific? Yes, we need a specific bookmark payload, and this yes, this payload is hash, I think, and that's how we do the comparison to get the good record. Okay. So yes, we need to be able to specify the bookmark payload. So everything here.
Gotcha.
And type and then I will use the same message receive. Okay. So then maybe I need to be able to just customize the execute of the message receive. I don't know. I have to check, or maybe in another other part of the custom activity. Okay, I will start thinking on this.
Okay.
Yes, and but maybe I will. Maybe I have something. Can I show something on? I check just if I have something else.
I do have a question about the workflow. So you showed a send message and a message received. What happens if you send one message, but you want to deliver it to two listeners? So let's say there's maybe even in the same workflow, you want to have two message received activities. Will that work?
I don't test this, and it should work because we will have the same. We will have two bookmark stored in the in the different store. We will have two bookmark if we have two to receive activity.
That's true. So because I was wondering, what if you want to do some publish and subscribe setup, but you're right. In this case, the message, even though there's just one message being sent, which will be delivered to this topic, and there will be just one consumer, or that's actually a secondary question. How are these workers set up so that they listen for a given topic and or queue, and or how do they create a subscription? Maybe we can go over that in a second. But yes, you're right. The message is delivered. The inbox will deliver it to both activities that created the bookmark.
Yes, if we have two subscriptions, it will work, I think, because with one message we have two subscriptions, but we have two listeners, so two endpoints to enter on the workflow.
Yeah, exactly. Can we just for my curiosity take a quick look at the code that creates those workers? I'm curious to see if it should be based on the triggers and the bookmarks.
Yes, sorry. You want to see the code when we create new listeners?
Yeah, when we create the listeners, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
For the workers.
It's the worker manager, and we start worker, and we check worker for queue or topic and subscription.
So start works, I think, receives a queue or topic and optionally subscription. What is calling this one? Start worker async?
It's an update worker and start worker, and we use queue or topic of the payload and the subscription.
Right. Yeah. So it is iterating through triggers.
Yeah.
And bookmarks. Then, yeah, makes sense. So that means if there's two message received activities, there will be two bookmarks, which means when the application starts, it will create two workers, but those two message received activities, if they listen on if they have the same subscription name, then I wonder what happens, because they create their bookmark and the message is delivered twice, or at least it's handled twice. So will everything execute 4 times, or I'm trying to think through what's going to happen.
You are true. I think if we delegate the pub/sub mechanism to the pub/sub architecture, so in this case, the pub/sub engine is the service bus. It's not Elsa. So in this case, if we want to make pub/sub, we publish to one topic, but we're listening to multiple subscriptions. So in that case, that's okay. If we have two receive activity that point to the same subscription, we are not making pub/sub using Azure Service Bus, but using Elsa. And in this case, you are true. We have race condition. Hello, because when we go to the two receive activity, when we meet the two receive activity, we will create listener, and maybe we will just receive one. The instance of the message is not cloned, so we will receive only one instance. And if the bookmark is not created for the two activity at the same time, we will not receive two messages, but only one for one activity, and the other activity will never be started and resumed. For me, I think it says this.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, I'm gonna do some more experiments and see how this works in practice.
And I think we don't want to be in charge of this.
How do you mean?
If we have two receive activity with the same name in a subscription, it's an error. We don't have to manage the case where we want to.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Then it's a user error. They created a program that will have a certain behavior, but that will be their own responsibility. It's not something we need to mitigate or anything like that. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
And maybe I will encounter some, because I use a lot this in my program, Azure subscription, and maybe I will see some other issue when I need to receive multiple message, maybe in a loop, maybe send and receive multiple time. And in that case, I will show this and create some issue or try to do everything to mitigate this kind of issue in the engine.
Yeah.
Because I think it will be very useful.
Yeah, absolutely, very useful. And yeah, and this pattern can be repeated not just for Azure Service Bus, but also RabbitMQ and Mass Transit, which abstracts both those service buses.
Yeah. And,
all right.
Yes, and I just think no, I think it's all for the moment.
Then I have one final thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the designer for a second? So as you can see, the activities other than send message and message received, they have a little icon. Should we go ahead and find a proper icon for send message and message received and see how it works to set it up in the Elsa Studio?
Yes, how to okay. See how we can add some icon in the different activities. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And in this case, because these activities, they are part of Elsa core, so we won't do it as part of the Blazor application directly, but we'll update an existing module and just extend it with icons for this one. But it gives us an opportunity to discuss a little bit what it would look like if, in case you are creating your own custom activities, and of course you're not gonna update Elsa source code, but still you want to be able to provide a custom icon.
Yep.
Yeah, so we can talk about that as we go through this. First order of business will be to select a good icon, and I usually use two sources. Since this Elsa Studio is created using Blazor, that's the first place to start. And if they have a good icon, we use it from there, and otherwise we go to Tailwind Toolbox. Yeah, perfect. So let's see what they have. Maybe some envelope or.
Got this one.
Yeah, maybe. Although to me, this is associated with Facebook's Messenger.
But the idea is to be able to find the good not the good couple of icon with send and receive.
Yeah, true.
Or if we have just it's not send, but maybe this kind with a vertical bar and an arrow.
Yeah, maybe. What do you think about an envelope?
Envelope, yes.
No envelopes. What about mail?
Outgoing mail, but do we have?
Yeah, so this could be send, publish, but we also need something that depicts the receival of a message.
Let me find. That's the work of any good designer. Look at all the icons during all the day. Maybe something like download. Maybe yes, it's a kind of upload and download. It's the two kind of.
Yeah, I think there's too much of a strong association with actually uploading and downloading. But I'm going to share a link with you. Just we can look at. I shared a link through chat of Teams.
Yes, light icon. Okay. Yes.
So this seems more appropriate, although this, of course, is typically used for email, but whether email messages get sent through SMTP and POP, this is just, you could consider it as just a different broker.
Yes, this one is good.
So, okay, so let's try and find this one on tailwindtoolbox.com, because from there we can immediately download SVG, or maybe this one as well. But the nice thing about going through Tailwind Toolbox is that we have a more consistent icon style, because there's other activities that also leverage icons found here. So go to generators, and then the first one, icon. Yeah. So they have 1, 2, 3 sets, and let's just, well, there you go. There's outbox.
This one?
Yeah, maybe we could use this one for outgoing.
Yeah. So this one is good. So take a look at this side. This is outgoing. This one? Yes. Okay. And is it ongoing? Yes. This one?
Yeah, perfect. So we have those two. All right.
Okay, I think it's okay.
So let's see, and we just need to figure out whether these are tabular or hero icons. And that's a little bit tricky. At some point I figured it out by downloading some JSON file that's used by this website, but I forgot the details. But what you can do is just go to hero icons at the top first. See if you can find the same icons. And if you can, then we'll use those.
Yes, just this one. And this one.
Maybe this one and this one. Okay, so we could use those two, or if you prefer the other one from tabular, we can do it.
No, it's okay. And this one. Okay, got it. Hello, Mohammed.
Mohammed joined?
Yes, just I know, maybe not join, but just send an emoticon.
He said, yeah, he's in the chat.
Okay.
Incoming. I think it's a miracle you speak English at all, being friends and all.
I do my best.
What's that?
I do my best.
It's very good.
Okay, so good for this. Now we need to reference this for service activity.
Yeah, first let's make sure we remove class, the class attributes. I don't know if it's necessary, but it's not going to be used either, so it's good to just get rid of it. Yeah, sorry, I meant indeed the CSS class. Yeah, like that. Yeah, okay. So now we have the SVG, and now we need to associate them with the corresponding activities. And for that, we go to a different class. 1 second. Oh yeah, so now we go to a class called default activity display settings provider. Now repeat, default activity display settings provider. I found it. Yeah, and then here we just add a mapping between the fully qualified names of the service bus sent message and the message received activity.
And it's not this. Okay.
Oh yeah, so this icons class is from Blazor, but you need to use Elsa Studio icons. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, this is one.
So question.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the message received activity?
Sure.
So the first argument here, is this the name or the namespace?
I think it's a namespace. Yes.
Okay, so that's good. So the full name would be Elsa that as a service bus dot message received.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be the full name.
But in the other case, it's
so here
namespace. So we have send that send message.
Yes, so I would recommend removing that send at the end of the namespace so that it's also Elsa service bus. Yeah, like this. And yeah, you get the full name.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, and well, since we are here, you updated the icons. We can definitely take a look, but maybe it's also nice to find a different set of colors for this category. Instead of the boring primitive blue color, maybe we have a bunch of existing colors, but we can also choose another color from Blazor if we want.
Yes, it's this one is from.
So we don't yet have a messaging or something like that category. So we could introduce one.
For the color, I need to go to the MudBlazer documentation.
Yeah. Although we're not limited to the colors offered by MudBlazer, we can use whatever color we want.
If you have any suggestion, because I really dumb in color and design.
Sorry.
I really bad in design.
Well, of course, you're a developer.
Yeah.
Could anyone expect you to be a good designer? So actually, let me share my screen for a second. Okay, so I'm here at the theme palette colors. Let's see what we have. Sorry. So we have a bunch of colors. Oh yeah, I think I used Tailwind CSS. So here we can just pick one. And as I mentioned, we're not limited to this, but I use this as my go-to color palette. How about this one?
Yes, for sure. This one is good. This one is not because I need to change the JSON.
You change, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, or what you could do is if you restart the backend server, then this will turn into a not found activity, and you can just replace it. But is the server running or not?
Yes. It's because the command windows was frozen because I've selected something in the screen.
Oh.
Okay, so not found.
Yes, so delete this one and then add a new send message.
Yes, okay, but okay. But I can get the property configured on my not found activity. I lose my property.
Oh, yeah. In this case, you do. If you don't want to, then it's still stored as part of the not found activity. So you could export the definition and then grab it from there and reconfigure this one.
Okay.
Great.
So
Very
and
good.
the idea for me, I think it's like in it's to be able to use some attributes on the activity, a custom activity, to define the SVG, the color.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So yes, we could do it in the from the server end, and that makes it very convenient for custom activity developers. At the same time, it also means there's a very tight coupling, so to speak, between the backend and the front end, and this might not be as desirable because the color scheme and the icon scheme used by the designer may be not appropriate for, if you had another workflow client. So for example, we have the stencil implementation, we have the Blazor implementation, and they use different theme with different colors and icons and things like that. So I don't think it's for that reason, it may not be a good idea, because today we are using the Blazor implementation, but maybe tomorrow we decide it sucks and we're gonna, move to, I don't know, some React implementation using a completely different design system. What's that?
Oh, please.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna change it, but just to make a point in terms of the design decision, where I don't think we should do it in the back end. Instead, I think it's okay to be able to define it in your Blazor Studio or Elsa Studio application, which you can still do without touching Elsa source code. You just go to your your own ASP.NET Core Blazor application, and there you can extend this set yourself. So if you look at this thing, as you can see, indeed, you just need to implement this provider and register it with DI.
Yes. Okay. So we can register. We can use this one and make some heritage
Oh, you don't need to. It's so actually you shouldn't inherit from this one. You should create a new class, implement that interface, and registering with the DI, because this thing it's provider based. So you're supposed to register multiple implementations or multiple implementations of that same interface, so you can have multiple um, registrations. So this example, I just put everything into one class because there's there's no need really to have a separate project or separate class per kind of activity, but you could if you wanted to. So it depends on how you want to organize your custom activities and the display aspects thereof. So you can structure it in different implementations, but the main goal is you can have multiple activity display settings providers in the system.
Okay, that's good. I will play with this because with all my activities, with all my custom activities, I will try to add some icon.
Yeah, that's great. And if you do run into a limitation, then make it more extensible where necessary. But I think this already should get you a long way.
Sure.
Right.
That's good. Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for the demo and the walkthrough. And so the next time, unless I forget, it will be on Thursday.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jay. Have a good one.
Have a good week. Bye.
Thanks. You too. Great weekend. Bye-bye.